Hey everybody, it's Jeff, Aromatics, here to do a little bit of an experiment. Now the other day on the Facebook forums where a bunch of us discuss rolling our own cigars, someone brought up the question, should I take out the midrib from the leaves when I'm bunching my filler for my cigar? And we had all these different, everyone has an opinion on it, whether you should or you shouldn't, and what kind of effect it'll have if you do or if you don't. But I've never actually seen anybody do an experiment where they had one cigar with a bunch of stems and midribs left in and another one where they took them out and then did a comparison to see what difference it would make. Now what I mean by that is, so here's an example of a leaf here. This is a Oscuro Ecuadorian leaf. So in the middle there you can see there's what's called a midrib. That's quite a thick big vein. And then that would be the midrib, and then you got veins that run along the lamina there that are much smaller. Those are not usually the ones that are in question. You have to leave those there. They don't make a difference. But that midrib, right there, in a lot of filler leaf, is half of it's been taken out, and that's called frog-legged because it looks like frog legs. But a lot of people still take the rest of it out as well and just use the lamina part. So that's what's in question is, does it make a difference if you leave that a lot of that midrib in or not? And just as a side note, a lot of times when you are smoking a cigar and you feel a bit of a stem poking you, that's sometimes not even like the actual midrib. It's often just a really thick vein because some Ligero has like really thick veins. So that gives you an idea of what we're talking about. So what I did for this experiment is I took a cigar that I blend that I'm very familiar with, and it's an all Dominican blend. And what I did was I did the exact same fillers and wrapper as that, but I added as much stems or midribs as I could. I'll show you a picture of it, and it's probably about 40%, and you can maybe see some of the cross section of them in there mixed in nicely. So about probably 40% of this is nice big chunky stems and midrib and vein and whatever thick stuff I could jam in there. So let me see, before I start this, my hypothesis will be it probably won't make that much of a difference in taste. Although some people think it might make it bitter. Other people say, they leave some of the midrib in, not as much as I put in there, because I put in a lot of it just to get a good feel of what midrib and veins can add to what it'll change to the flavor or characteristics, burn, etc. Where was I going with this? Anyway, yeah, some people think that it might make it bitter. Other people, I think most people just thought it would probably make it bitter, or maybe add nicotine, because a lot of the Cubans always rip it out saying that's where all the nicotine comes from. I don't know if it'll have a lot of nicotine or not. This is probably about when it comes to strength, probably a mid-strength cigar for me. So if it really kicks my butt, I'll know that it's adding some strength to it. The one thing I am kind of worried about though is if it adds a little bit of tar, because I have seen some people where they've smoked a cigar and you get this black goo. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case. So okay, let's get this lit up here. I'm going to use some hemp wick. Try that. So I'm curious about the flavors myself, and I'm also curious to see how the burn's going to look, like what the ash will look like with a lot of stem in it. I forgot to cut it, but I'm still getting a little bit of airflow there. All right, let me get this thing lit and cut properly, and then I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll let you know how it goes. Stick around. All right, smoking this thing down. Ash is holding on really good. I want to see how far I can smoke this and see how well the ash will hold with all those stems in there. But as expected, I do feel the nicotine is a little bit higher than normal, but not a ton. It's hard for me to really tell nicotine-wise because in the winter, I'm a kind of a lightweight when it comes to nicotine, and I can feel it a lot more. So I can feel it, but it's not knocking me right over yet. But I definitely have to take my time. So the flavors I'm getting are similar to what I normally get in this blend, but actually I think I like it better in a way. better in that I like the fact that it's got a little bit more edge, a little bit more bite, a little more fullness, and not in a way that just an extra Ligero would do. It's like every leaf that's in there has got a little bit more, is a little more forward. There's a little bit more black pepper. I normally don't get black pepper in this blend, but I'm definitely tasting it now. The first thing I did notice is there's definitely a bitterness to it. It's almost off-putting. I definitely would not make this exact blend again, that's for sure, because it is a little bit too bitter. So I will say that the stems do add a bitterness to it, but at the same time, quite the cool punch that you normally wouldn't get without the stems in there. Other than that, the draw has been pretty good. I'm not getting any stems poking out of the end on my tongue. It's a little bit lumpy and bumpy, but I just kind of rolled this really quick, so it's not like I really took my time to do a really good job on it. All right, let me keep smoking this down. Hopefully it won't knock me over, and we'll see how far we can get this ash on here, and I'll give you my conclusions. I've got some more things to say, but I don't want to say them yet. So stick around, and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, we are back. Well, obviously, leaving the stems in definitely gives it a stronger ash. Like, look at that. It is not coming off. Okay, so other than the ash, what else am I noticing? So after about the halfway point, the flavors went from pretty enjoyable, like really good, punchy and edgy, but still very flavorful. I actually really enjoyed the flavors quite a bit. But then after about the halfway point, it starts to get more bitter, and there's just some more harshness to it. And I think those flavors are still there, but they're kind of getting overcome by some of that bitterness and the harshness. So what do I conclude overall? Here's what I think I conclude so far is I like the idea of leaving some stems in. Now 40%, obviously, like I purposely put a bunch of stems in there that didn't belong in there. But I think that from now on, I am going to leave a little bit of stem in there. So maybe like 5%, especially when it comes to, say, the lighter leaves like a Seiko or the Vizos that have smaller stems. Probably leave a little bit of that in there, spread it out a bit, and maybe just not do the Ligero, because those are pretty thick. Because I think that overall it does actually give it a little bit more flavor, a little bit more edginess to the blend. Some good construction. It didn't affect the draw or performance in a negative way at all. If anything, it was positive. So overall, I think that what it did kind of remind me of is a Padron. Not really in the flavor, but I smoke a lot of the Padron 1000 series, and they've got this kind of edgy, full flavor that I've never really noticed in any other kind of cigar. And so I'm kind of curious to try this with my Nicaraguan tobacco to see if I can get a little bit more of a bite and strength out of some of my lighter leaves. So overall, that would be my conclusion. Is I think that leaving a little bit of your stems in there is perfectly fine. I don't think it would be enough to make it bitter. It's just something to experiment. But overall, with a ton of stem in there, it didn't really make a huge difference except for past the half, and then it starts to get bitter. But I do think that leaving some stem in there is beneficial, and I'm going to probably start doing that from now on and see what I think, go from there. So that's about all I can say. I'm probably going to maybe just baby this a little bit and see if I can keep this ash as long as possible, and then take a picture of it, because that's kind of cool. Anyway, I hope you guys found this interesting. If there's any questions or if you think I left something out, let me know, because I can maybe do this experiment again. Which like I said, I'm gonna try some of my blends, but with leaving like maybe a 5% or just whatever, a couple of those stems in there that I think won't make a huge difference. But just it does seem to give a little bit more punch and a little bit more flavor to the blend. I did like. When it was good at the first half, I really liked what I was getting, except for that slight bitterness on the back end in the back of my throat. But if I can keep all those flavors without getting the bitterness by adding a few stems, I will definitely do that. All right, this was a really cool experiment. I'm glad I did it. Anyway, hope you guys found it interesting, and I'll see you in my next video. So till then, aromatics. signing out.